All right. Hey, I just want to shoot a quick video on comping properties in this current market. So as I shoot this video, it is May 24th of 2021. So I'm in this in the MLS and I'm negotiating offers almost every day. Um, so I have a pretty good feel for what's going on in the market and what it takes to win properties and where the and I wholesale a lot of these properties. I also do fix and flips myself, so I know on the back end where these guys are ending up as far as the ARVs on them. Um, one of the one of the things I've ran into recently is some of my investors haven't made the shift to the new market. And what I mean by that is that they are comping properties as if it's 2019 or 2020, beginning 2020. That's we can no longer comp properties like we have for the last 10 years. This is a fast changing market on an extremely fast upward projectile that we have to comp them a little bit differently. We have to comp them much more aggressively in order to be competitive whatsoever. And so let me show you what I mean by that. So here's a property that I'm looking at, and we have an offer at 390. It might be a little too aggressive on this one, but we'll see. When I comp this property, um, these properties over here are newer builds, so they're not really ones um, that I want to use. So I'm gonna pull down to here, and then here are some that are. This one's in pretty decent shape, so you know, it's not a fresh rehab though, right? So for 460, um, this one's okay. Uh, but here's where I'm running into issues. So like I'll run into some investors that'll be comping, let's say this property at 440, and they're not looking at these because they're not completely fixed up, but they'll find a 440 comp that sold back in December or back in November, and that's the comp that they'll be using. And it's like, hey, wait, time out. Comps that are any older than a couple months at this point, you really just got to discard them, because I have seen in these neighborhoods, comps at I don't this isn't a great example of a show that shows you what I mean by this, but let's say for example this one was completely fixed up inside for 445 and it sold back in December, and then you've got this guy right here just sold for 460 that just sold a month ago, um, for 460, and it's not fixed up at all. So like this one, let's say it's this average condition. I'll see that all the time. And so here's the point of this video. When you are comping properties, you no longer are we weighing properties conditions to one another as much as we're weighing when it got sold. The most recent sold, whether that's a nice fixed up property or maybe not so fixed up, maybe it's just an average condition, we will use that most recent sold over the fixed up, the older fixed up sold. So hopefully that makes sense. So I need people to understand that, because this market is changing so quickly. I'll pause this and I'll kind of go back to the here. Let me pause this. I'll just go back to this one area that kind of shows you what I'm talking about. All right, so this is a great illustration of what I'm trying to explain here. So here we are at the beginning of the year at 442. This is the average. This is median, but we switch it to average. So we are at five. This is the average sold price of 535. We're talking 4 months later. Um, an increase of almost 70, 80,000, right? So you can see how quickly the pricing is going up. We too have to take that into account when we can't look at December comps, because look at it. Look how much of a difference in average price there is. So that is why when I run across some investors that are still comping things like we were dealing with the last, 3 years. Here's a 3-year line chart of our average price. Of course, we can look back, 3, 6 months, or even 12 months sometimes, and look at a comp right here, that is no longer the case. So hopefully that makes sense why I'm not when I'm trying to comp a property, I sometimes I get accused of pushing a price point. I have to push a price point. That's what we're in. This is the market that we're in. For us to be competitive as investors, we have to push the ARV. If you're not comfortable doing that, then don't invest in this real estate market right now. But it's really tough to find, it's really, really, really tough to find properties that we can comp using 6-month-old comps at this point because listing agents know it, the sellers are pushing pricing, you know, it's just really tough. So hopefully that drives home the point of when you're comping properties, make sure to weigh your comps to the most recent solds, not so much the condition of the property. And if I've got a sold that is last month, and it's and then I've got a sold that's 3 or 4 months old, and there's a $30,000 difference, which you'll see that all the time. I use the most recent sold because that's our pricing increase, average pricing increase that we're seeing in the overall Denver market. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully that helps you kind of gauge where we're at in this current market and how to make adjustments so that you can be successful as a real estate investor in this market.